Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
To truly support both the business and its people, organizations need the right HCM tech in place. Tools that help teams run smoothly and stay aligned with employee needs. Hey, this is Bill Bannum, host of this episode, and in this episode of the HR Chat Pod, I sit down with Jacqueline Kuhn and Priscilla Sparrow, two of the authors behind the newly updated second edition of HRchat's Guide to HCM Technology, what you need to know before your next HCM technology purchase. We'll dive into the practical side of HCM tech, including how to take your knowledge and turn it into real-world impact. If you're thinking about your next tech investment, this conversation will give you inspiration and guidance on building your HR service delivery model, crafting an HCM strategy, evaluating systems, managing implementation, and knowing what to expect after go live. Jacqueline and Priscilla, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show today. Jacqueline's been on the show before. It's nice to get to hang out with you again. Priscilla, this is your first time. So as we mentioned before we hit record, we're going to go easy on you. Don't worry about that. The first question I'd like to ask of both of you. Jacqueline, perhaps you'd like to go first on this one. And then Priscilla, if you've got anything you'd like to add after that, that would be great. And that's around the book and the purpose of the book. This is the second edition, of course. What's changed, I guess, is the main question there. And as part of that, what gaps in the market or common pitfalls were you hoping to address for HR pros in this updated edition?
Yeah, so it's been almost 4 years since the last edition, and there has a lot has changed. Particularly, the emergence of AI has just proliferated HR, and that there's now a whole chapter on AI in HR and what an HR professional needs to know. And that's 4 years is a long time for a technology book to be sitting on a shelf, because tech changes so quickly. So we decided that now was the time to dust it off and update it. And really, the whole purpose of the book is to educate the buyer, educate the HR technology, HCM buyer, to help them think about the things that they need to know before making a purchase. It's really a quick, I always call it an airplane read, right? It's not a novel, it's a novella. No. But, it just, it's a little longer than the last book because there's more content, but that's the big thing. And then Priscilla joined the team since the last book was published, and she's a certified change management professional. So one of the other reasons for publishing the book is to put our new and improved methodology and her take on what HR professionals need to know about change management.
Wonderful. So it sounds like, Priscilla, you're a great addition to the team. What would you like to add there to that answer?
Yes. So just again, just kind of thinking about the role of HR professionals and how critical that role would be to effective change management. And when you really think about the HR professional or the HR team and how they are uniquely positioned in the organization, they already understand those teams from really the top down. And so engaging them in the change management methodology, the approach, especially for an HCM implementation where we specialize, they can really speak to the needs. They are already positioned to effectively communicate. And so we really want them to understand how valuable their role would be in the success of the implementation or change initiative.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Wonderful. Thank you, Priscilla. Just a quick follow-up for you there, if you don't mind, based on something that Jacqueline said in her answer. And that's you guys have added a whole section around the impact of AI. I was at HRtech last year in Vegas. Everything is labeled AI powered this, AI fueled that, and AI is very much part of the public consciousness now. I got on board a few years ago. Now I run a bunch of AI and HR related events, primarily in the UK. How much has AI really changed the HR tech stack over the past, specifically 4 years? We're talking 4 years now since the last edition. Is it really that dramatic? What functions have been dramatically changed in those years? Or actually, is it just a continuation of something we saw 5, 6, 7 years ago?
So I guess I'll take that. And I wouldn't say it has dramatically changed the HCM tech stack. What it has done is make it more HR user friendly, right? The assistants are probably a little more polished. They work a little bit better, not as generic as they used to be. The reporting and insights you can get have been refined a little bit. So I think it's more of the capabilities are now more usable by a practitioner, and you don't need to be a techno wizard to really leverage it. To me, that's the biggest change is it's now usable.
Yeah, for example, we work with a lot of people at our events who promote no code AI, and it just seems to be far more user friendly today than it was just a few years ago. Okay, Jacqueline, for you, the title of the book hints at being a roadmap for buyers, of course. What's the biggest misconception that HR leaders still have when approaching their next HCM technology purchase?
Yeah, they still believe that the technology is for their departments to be more effective. I cannot believe that in the year 2025, they haven't thought of it as a tool for the business to manage their people assets. It floors me how many leaders we get in front of, and their whole business case is about making themselves more efficient and effective. And that is not what HCM technology does today. HCM technology is all about putting information in the hands of decision makers who can make better decisions because they know their people. And I think we kind of beefed up some of the language around that in this version of the book because I do not believe the HR world has completely and fully grasped that concept. They understand the importance of putting information in the employee's hands, but we still see HR leaders afraid of putting information in the manager hands.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up, it makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
Okay, thank you. And then when it comes to strategy and readiness, Jacqueline, you talk about aligning HCM strategies with the C-suite. This is an ongoing discussion that we have on this show about how HR leaders can have a place at the top table. What are some tips for HR leaders who want to better position themselves as a strategic partner during HCM tech planning?
I always say follow the money. Know how your organization makes money. Know how the roles in your organization affect that, and make sure that you have the right talent, the right development, the right processes in place so that those roles can do their jobs and help make money. I mean, it's that is what HR tends to miss. The strategic value of the HCM is those key roles that drive the top and bottom line need to be nurtured and developed and recruited. And you get strong players and you have people who can make a difference. And now your seat at the table is stronger because you have impacted the top and bottom line.
Next question. Maybe it's for Jacqueline, maybe it's for Priscilla, maybe it's for both. It's on evolution and selection. I wonder if one or both of you can suggest one or two red flags that HR pros should look for during the evaluation and vendor selection process that may signal future headaches post implementation.
I'll take a first crack at that. I think the very first red flag is when you are speaking with a potential software vendor and you ask them a question directly and they dance around the answer. You do not get a clear answer. It is not acceptable. You should get an answer to your question. And I think that there are great salespeople who will be direct and say, no, we don't do that. But it's when you have a salesperson more interested in selling the product than making sure they make the right sale where they're going to dance around and people buy products that won't work for them. And I think that a piece in the book really talks about how technology today works. I mean, it does work. Whether or not it works for you is what you have to figure out. And if you're talking with a vendor who isn't answering your questions to your satisfaction, it's time to break that relationship, because if it can't work for you, then it's not going to be a good buy. I think the other red flag, and I will let Priscilla talk about this because this directly impacts change management, is when the vendor says, oh yeah, we have full change management, and they actually have a 10-slide PowerPoint. Priscilla, talk about that red flag.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's just the misconceptions of what change management really means and what it really looks like from a change initiative standpoint. Oftentimes we hear, yeah, we want to communicate and we want to make sure that we have good training, but it's so much more than that. And when we really think about, employee engagement or employee experience that are often one of the project outcomes on these implementations. It's really about how do we engage them early on, giving them opportunities for that two-way feedback, assessing that change readiness along the way. And so that's always a little bit of a red flag to me when they don't really understand what change management really should look like, even from a dedicated resource perspective, and all of the work and the effort that we need to put in to be successful.
Yeah, because vendors actually, when they try to sell product, try to downplay the amount of effort it takes to implement,
Mhm.
and literally hand people a 12-page PowerPoint. Here's your change management, and of course that's going to fail.
Just to follow up to that, then, to one or both of you, you guys pick. But this is the second edition. You've got all this wonderful updated information in there. How are you collecting your data? How are you keeping relevant? How are you keeping current? What are you doing for that? So what do those conversations with vendors look like? For example, is that demos? Are you having conversations on the expo floors? Are you doing co-authored research with other folks around this? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, so it's all of the above.
Mhm.
We have, well, because we issue so many RFPs a year, we probably see the top 8 to 10 vendors 6 or 7 times a year anyway, because we're just in the RFP process. And even outside of that, once a quarter, usually we take an hour meeting, understand the roadmap. We go to HRchat, we read all the newswires. We have a membership in something here in the U.S. called the Advisor Collective. That's other people like us we have our own little association of people who do strategic consulting, and we share information as well. We share, who's performing, who isn't, what did they learn about a vendor that they didn't know that was like hidden deeply. So we've created our own little network of people who also has information. And in that way, we have about 500 detailed requirements on every vendor and whether or not they meet them across the whole HR spectrum.
Yeah, and for the change management side, I mean, some of the things that I do to stay current is, that constant kind of research, networking around the latest trends. So I'm certified in this change management space, a member of, the Florida chapter here, and also locally staying engaged, certainly with other professionals and practitioners. Just, what are the trends currently, what's up and coming, and really learning from those who also have experience of what's working well in this industry. Is also, I've been a practitioner now for a little over a decade, and so it's when you think about how often and rapid things continue to change, especially in the technology space, there's certainly always room for growth and learning. So I try to stay plugged in.
Excellent. And I think I heard there from Jacqueline, you have 500 different types of criteria that you're judging these vendors on. Is that right?
Yes.
That's pretty comprehensive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good. Very good. Priscilla, let's talk about implementation and change management a bit more. Change management is, of course, your forte. It is, of course, your speciality. What's one of the biggest mistakes that organizations make during HCM implementation? And what would be your top tip for ways that they can avoid that?
It's just the kind of misconception of what does effective, structured, the implementation of change management really look like. I think that there's just some misconceptions around that. Really, the work and the effort that we would need to put in to have an effective change management implementation, but also having the dedicated resources. So as a consulting firm, we really partner with those internal resources to kind of just help be the face of change and to drive the activities, the planning around that. And so just really trusting, your partner in terms of the expertise, but just understanding as well that there's work to be done around this effective change management approach. And so to have the resources that we need on hand to accomplish that is critical in that success.
Okay, we are flying through this conversation. Jacqueline, for you, how do you see the role of AI? Let's talk more about AI. How do you see the role of AI continuing to shape HCM systems? And what should HR pros be doing now to stay ahead and stay relevant in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months time?
The way AI works is based on good data for the most part, right? If you don't have good data, the AI can't give you good answers. And it all gets back to process and data. Make sure that before you start using, agentic AI and creating insights, that your data is clean, that you have everything you need to answer your questions. So you can ask the AI a question, but if you're missing key parts of the information, you're not going to get a good answer. So it all goes back to the basics, right? I mean, there are just basics that technology can help with, but you have to have good data going in. I think the other thing is when you go back to the, how to be strategic, follow the money, know what information you need that will make the biggest bang, right? That will make the biggest contribution. And make sure that you've got information, that you're collecting the information that you need to either make those predictions or give insights, et cetera. And so right now is really when you should be taking a look at anything you have on a spreadsheet, anything that is not actually in an application that AI is using, you have to get it in there. So many organizations today download their HR information, augment it in Excel, and then create reporting or dashboards outside of the HCM. That has to stop. If your HCM can't do it, maybe you need to buy a third-party reporting tool. You don't necessarily have to trash your entire HR payroll system. There are lots of really great reporting tools out there that can do it for you. So you really need to start by what do I need What do I need to know that I don't know today? What am I compiling manually that, the AI can do for me? And what questions should the C-suite be asking me about our people so that they can make good business decisions? And make sure you've got that data dictionary, and make sure, if you are a global organization, it's a global data dictionary. Make sure that you take an inventory, of everywhere you are around the world, and you have the same information on people everywhere around the world. AI is great, but if your data isn't good, it's the same old, garbage in, garbage out we've been talking about for the past, 30, 40 years.
I did a Disrupt HR talk on exactly this, and I had a garbage in, garbage out slide just a couple of months ago. Okay, so in terms of being able to access the technology that folks need for you mentioned reporting tools and to help with budgets, for example, Jacqueline, is the technology now available to the SMEs as well as the big guys? Should there be nothing stopping the smaller companies from being able to access the level of analytics around their people compared to the big guys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The tools in place today, there are enterprise strength tools that are priced for SMBs. There are SMB tools as well that are very good. So, there's so much technology, there are so many apps out there. Size of organization is not a barrier to entry anymore. It's really, understanding what you need. And that's where, folks like us can come into play. We can, ask those probing questions and help you understand what it is you need, and buy the appropriate tool for your needs and budget.
There we go. There are solutions for all of you out there, listeners. Priscilla, sometimes change takes time. What advice do you have for HR teams managing stakeholder expectations when results from new HCM systems aren't exactly immediately visible?
Yeah, absolutely. Change definitely takes time. And we often share and reiterate that change really begins at go live when you think about implementations. And so that's really where the people who are impacted by the change really start to utilize those new business processes, the system that's been implemented. And when you think about change management, it's really the people side. So it's the human reactions, whether they embrace, whether they're kind of moving a little slower through that change curve, but really keeping a pulse on how well those measures that we should always identify before we implement a change, to be able to understand what is working, where we're hitting our targets. And because again, with the human aspects of going through change, people are going to go through change at different rates, at different paces. And so to kind of take that patience to understand where they are will also help us to determine where to provide that additional support, and to also, again, keep a pulse on just how the people are moving through their own change curve and change experience. So it's that individual framework that we also often focus on to support them through their experience.
Got that song in my head now. Changes. Okay, two more questions for you. For both of you. Priscilla, if you'd like to go first on this one, what's one actionable piece of advice you hope every reader and HRchat listener as well, of course, takes away from the book?
Yeah, what I would really like for them to take away from the book is really thinking about how their organization is positioned to support change management currently. And if the experience level is not really there where they would like for it to be, don't hesitate to call on a partner to bring in that experience, that methodology, expert knowledge to really help them establish a structured approach that is going to be um, put together for appropriate for their organization and their change initiative. So to kind of have that support and that partnership is really going to make a difference and go a long way.
And Jacqueline, what about you?
I have a couple of things. I think the first thing is really understand that when you're buying new HCM technology, it is not about the purchase. It is not about the implementation. It is about living with it, sustainment, and the care and feeding. I always use the analogy, it's like buying a house. The day you buy a house is the day it begins. Your life begins or ends, depending on how you look at it, or your pocketbook gets lighter. But it's not about the buying. It's about the using, right? It's about the decorating. It's about everything you do with what you bought. So really, when you read the book, I hope everybody understands that the purchase is just the beginning. The other thing, and another real reason to add an entire chapter about AI is I was at Unleash last year, and there was a quote where, and I don't remember who said it, but the quote was, AI isn't going to replace you. However, if you are not using AI, you will be replaced with someone who is. So understand the kinds of AI that's out there, how it can benefit you, how it can make your organization more efficient and effective, and begin to adopt it. Don't be the last one on your block to get AI. This is not the kind of thing to wait and see. So don't be the last person to adopt it, and then make sure you budget for help, for consulting help. Not having enough time and resources is the number one reason projects fail. Not having proper planning is the number two reason projects fail. So when you read the book, understand what it takes to buy, implement, care, and feed your technology, and don't be afraid to buy supplemental resources for all of that, because it is in that you will, really be successful. You don't have to build up your team. You don't have to have, paid wage earners to make this happen. Outsource smart and strategically.
And if you want to learn more about outsourcing smart, you should probably get in contact with Priscilla and with Jacqueline. So with that, how can folks connect with you? Is that LinkedIn? Do you want to share your emails, or are you all over the other socials? By the way, Priscilla, I shot you a LinkedIn connection request about 3 minutes before our call today. And of course, how can folks get a copy of the second edition of ebook?
So yes, we are all over LinkedIn. It is my name, Jacqueline Kuhn. Or you can email me, jkuhn@harchetect.com. The book is available today on Amazon. There is a Kindle as well as a paperback version. So if you aren't a reader, but you like to listen to books while you're driving or working out, you can buy the Kindle version as well. That's probably the best way to get it. And Priscilla, you're on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn as well. You can find me at Priscilla Redd, REDD Sparrow on LinkedIn. My email is P as in Priscilla, Sparrow like the bird, at HRchat.com.
And it also sounds like folks can maybe meet you at various different events. Jacqueline, you mentioned Unleash just a moment ago. You also mentioned HR Tech earlier on. I can't make it to Unleash America this year, although one of our colleagues is going to be there. But I will be at HR Tech later this year, so we'll have to get together. Maybe we'll record an episode together on the shop floor, so to speak.
Yeah, we won't be at Unleash either, but we will be at HR Tech, and Priscilla will be at the ACMP National Meeting in Chicago in May. So any of you change people out there, or HR people looking to change, she will be at that one in Chicago this May. So.
Okay, even more ways to connect. Well, that just leaves me to say for today, Jacqueline, lovely to chat to you again. Priscilla, great getting to know you for the first time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Same here, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day, everyone.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.